It began on a dead moon that had no name. The mining ship Cobalt Dawn was on routine duty, drilling for rare metals deep below the surface. The crew was small, just 15 men and women who had grown used to the silence of empty rocks. For years, they had found nothing living out there. But this time, the scanners picked up something different. The signal was faint at first, just a soft pulse of heat deep under the frozen surface. The captain, an older man named Grant, ordered the drill team to change course. It could be a thermal vent, he thought, or something left by ancient travelers. Everyone was excited. A find like that could make them rich. The drills whined and bit into the moon's crust. Dust rose and sensors buzzed with data. What came up wasn't rock. It was something else. Something black, hard as steel, shaped like an egg. It had strange markings no one recognized. They took it inside, into the cargo hold, and gathered around. They argued for hours about what to do next. Some wanted to call headquarters. Others wanted to open it. The young engineer, Alina, touched its surface with a gloved hand. For a second, she thought she felt it move under her fingers. But when she looked again, it was still. At midnight, a loud crash shook the ship. The crew ran to the cargo hold. The black egg had cracked open. Smoke curled into the air, smelling like burnt meat. And something was gone. Something had been inside. They split up to search. Grant ordered everyone to stay calm. Probably a machine, he said. Old alien tech. But deep down, fear scratched at his mind. The moon felt suddenly colder. In the dark storage bay, Alina heard a noise. Slow scraping sound like claws on metal. She turned on her light and froze. A shape moved between the crates. Too tall to be human, skin like wet stone, its eyes burning faint blue in the dark. She opened her mouth to scream, but the thing leaped. The light fell from her hand. The scream never came. An hour later, Grant found blood on the walls. No sign of Alina. The crew gathered, faces pale. Something was hunting them. They were miners, not soldiers. But now, survival meant picking up weapons they barely knew how to use. They tried to seal the doors and block the halls. The hunter was clever. It moved through vents and shadows. One by one, it picked them off. A man named Peters went to check. The engine room. The others heard a scream through the cum and then silence. Panic spread. Some wanted to run to the shuttles and leave. But when they reached the docking bay, the shuttles were wrecked. Torn metal, smashed windows, and claw marks deeper than human fingers could make. They realized then this wasn't just an animal. It planned. It hunted for sport. Grant checked the logs. The signal they found wasn't a thermal vent. It was a heartbeat. A hunter in stasis, waiting for prey to come close. And they had come. Outside, the dead moon spun slowly. No help would come for days. The Cobalt Dawn had sent a routine report, but nothing about the creature. They were on their own. 2 days passed. The creature killed again and again. It avoided. Cameras. It watched them, learned how they moved. The last engineer, Malik, built a trap. Explosives in the corridor, rigged to blow when it passed. They hid and waited. Hours felt like years. Finally, a shadow moved. The charges blew. The hallway shook. Smoke filled the air. They ran to see. The walls were blackened, but the thing wasn't there. Only part of its armored skin lay smoking on the ground. It had survived, Malik whispered. It learns. His voice shook. It knows what we're trying to do. By the 4th day, only 4 humans were left. Grant, Malik, a medic named Rosa, and a young miner named Jack. They hadn't slept in 2 days. Fear burned in their eyes. They met in the mess hall, cold food untouched. "We can't hide forever," Jack said. His voice cracked. "We have to fight." Grant nodded. "We turn the whole ship into a trap. Force it into the reactor room. Overload the core." Rosa's eyes widened. "That will kill us too." Grant looked at her, tired and empty. "It's better us than letting this thing reach another colony." They armed themselves with cutters, plasma torches, anything sharp or hot enough to burn. Malik rewired doors to seal behind the creature. The plan was simple: bait it to chase them to the reactor. When the time came, Jack ran through the halls, yelling, firing blindly behind him. The creature followed, silent but unstoppable. Doors slammed shut behind it, cutting off escape. In the control room, Grant watched on the monitors. Malik shouted instructions, opening and closing gates to guide the thing. Jack ran past the last door, diving aside as it closed. The creature crashed against it, but the walls held. They forced it into the reactor room. Grant hit the override. The temperature inside began to rise. Warning alarms screamed through the ship. Through the glass, they saw the creature turn. Stared at them, calm, almost curious, as if it understood. Then it turned away, looking for a way out. Malik whispered, "It knows what's coming." The core glowed brighter. Metal warped and cracked. Grant looked at the others. This is it. Suddenly, the creature slammed its fists against the control window. The glass bent under the force. Rosa screamed.
Malik reached for the manual lock.
The thing raised its arms again, and then the core blew. Light filled the corridor. Like a sun, the creature's silhouette burned into their eyes. Then darkness swallowed everything. When Grant woke, he was on the floor, air hot and choking with smoke. The reactor had shut down before full meltdown. Emergency systems saved part of the ship, but the control room was ruined. He coughed, blood on his lips. Around him, Malik and Rosa lay still, burnt and broken. Jack was gone. Grant tried to stand. Pain shot through his side. But he forced himself up. The glass to the reactor room was cracked, almost gone. Inside there was nothing, just melted metal and black ash. He limped through the wreckage. Alone, the creature was dead. He thought about the crew, about Elena's laugh, Malik's jokes, Rosa's quiet kindness. All gone. Outside, the stars burned cold. The Cobalt Dawn was half dead, life support failing. Grant found the main console and sent a signal. Single message, all he had strength for. Contact. Alien hunter. Ship lost. Survivors, 1. Leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His hand touched something on the floor. A piece of the creature's armor, black and sharp. He picked it up, stared at it. Not a trophy. A warning. Hours passed. Rescue would come, but too late for the others. Grant's thoughts were slow, heavy with guilt. But in his chest, something else burned brighter than fear. Humans had been prey. But he had turned around, fought back, and survived. Out there, other alien hunters would hear this story. They would come, expecting easy kills. They would learn the galaxy had many predators. But now, for the first time, humanity had tasted. The hunt and humanity had survived its first kill. Grant closed his eyes, whispering to the darkness, "Come find us. We're ready." In the drifting silence of space, the wrecked ship turned slowly. A single human heartbeat, weak but defiant, echoed in the dark. Far away, in places humans had never seen, cold eyes watched the signal. They smelled blood, challenge, and danger. And in that danger, something unexpected, fear for the galaxies. Deadliest hunters had never known prey that could hunt them back. But they would. Humanity had just begun. The rescue ship Aurora's Light arrived 3 days later. Its crew expected to find a dead mining ship drifting in the dark. Instead, they found wreckage, burnt hulls. And the last survivor, Captain Grant. He was half-conscious when they pulled him aboard. His breathing was ragged, skin burned and eyes dull from smoke. In his hand, he still gripped a piece of black alien armor, sharp as glass and cold as death. Medics worked to keep him alive. They patched his wounds, cleaned the burns, and pumped fresh air into his lungs. Slowly, Grant opened his eyes. The first thing he asked for wasn't water. "Send the data logs," he whispered. "Alexei needs to know." They took the logs from Cobalt Dawn, recordings of screams, camera footage of something tall and inhuman moving through smoke. And the final message Grant had sent: "Alien hunter, ship lost. Survivors, 1. News spread fast, cross-human. Colonies, on space stations and trade routes. People watched the shaky footage. Shadows, quick flashes of claws, blood on metal floors. Grant's broken voice telling the story. But humans weren't the only ones listening. Far beyond human space, the hunters watched too. They had no name in human language, only guttural sounds like cracking bones and growls that echoed inside armored helmets. To them, the Cobalt Dawn had been sport. A test. They had sent one young hunter in stasis, hidden on a dead moon, waiting for prey to come close. But the test had failed. The prey had killed the hunter. The hunters had rules, old as their blood. Prey kills the hunter, it must be hunted. In return, it's not just to kill, but to erase the shame, to prove supremacy. They traced Grant's rescue ship to a drifting freighter named Silver Knight. It carried ore and a small crew, bound for the nearest colony. Grant was aboard, barely alive, on his way to a real hospital. The hunters came in silence. 2 ships, black and smooth, invisible to most sensors. No radio calls, no warnings, only darkness moving closer. On the Silver Knight, Jack the same. Young miner who had survived the first attack by hiding in a vent was awake. His body had burns, but his eyes burned hotter. He had sworn something as he crawled out of the wreck of the Cobalt Dawn. Never run again. He noticed strange readings on the freighter's radar. Small blips, too quiet, too perfect. He went to the captain, a woman named Pierce. "Something's following us," Jack said. His voice shook, but he forced it to stay strong. Pierce frowned. "Could be pirates?" Jack shook his head. "Pirates send threats. This feels wrong." Pierce saw the fear in his eyes. Old, deep fear, she ordered. The crew to go on alert. They locked hatches and kept the engines hot. But they were traders, not fighters. At midnight, the hunters boarded. No alarms. They cut through the hull with silent plasma tools. Metal glowed red, then blackened as it cooled. Through the gap, Shadow stepped aboard. Tall, armored, blue eyes. Glowing faintly behind masks, shaped like snarling beasts, they moved through the freighter like ghosts. Crew members died before they could scream. Throats cut, chests crushed, bodies dragged into corners. Blood spread across metal floors. Black in the dim emergency lights. Jack heard it first, a soft clank of something heavy stepping onto the deck. He grabbed a cutting torch and ran, not away but toward the noise. He found 2 hunters standing over a dead engineer. They turned, surprised by the young human facing them with fire in his hand. Jack didn't wait. He ignited the torch and swung. The flame hissed, cutting through the thin air. The hunters jumped back, not expecting prey to attack. Behind them, an oxygen tank leaked gas. Jack saw it, saw the spark catching the vapor. He threw himself aside. The corridor exploded. Heat slammed Jack into a wall. Metal rained down. Smoke filled his lungs. He coughed, pain tearing through his ribs, but forced himself to crawl forward. The hunters staggered up. Armor cracked and blackened. One fell, claws scrabbling at burned flesh. The other roared, an animal sound, echoing. Through metal walls, Jack crawled into the vents, heart pounding so loud it hurt. The hunters' heavy steps followed. The ship felt smaller, darker, as if the walls closed in. In the med bay, Grant opened his eyes again. He felt the ship shake, smelled smoke. His voice was a rasp. "They're here," he whispered. "A nurse." Tried to calm him? Who? What's happening? Grant's eyes focused, sharp with memory and rage. They came to finish the hunt. In the cargo hold, Captain Pierce gathered the last crew. "We fight," she told them. "They expect us to run. We won't." They took cutters, welding torches, even metal rods. Anything sharp, anything hot. Faces pale, hearts pounding, but their hands did not shake. Jack crawled through vents, blood dripping from his elbow. He heard the hunter moving below, slow and patient, waiting. He found a service shaft above the cargo hold. Through the grate he saw Pierce and 3 others hiding behind crates. He saw the hunter stepping closer, silent but certain of its kill. Jack's mind burned with memory, the first hunt on the dead moon. Lena's scream cut short the wreck of the shuttles. Not this time. He kicked the grate free and dropped. Landed hard, pain blooming in his leg. The hunter turned, surprised again. Jack swung the cutting torch, forcing it back. Behind him, Pierce shouted, "Now." The crew rolled barrels of liquid fuel. Jack ducked aside. Pierce fired her welding torch. Flames caught the barrels, fire rolling across the floor. The hunter roared, armor glowing red-hot, backing away. Its eyes locked on Jack, prey that dared fight. It lunged, claws out. Jack rolled aside. The claws scraped metal where his head had been. Sparks flew. The hunter raised its arm, a blade sliding free. Jack grabbed a metal rod, barely blocking the strike. The force knocked him to the floor, breath crushed from his lungs above. The second hunter climbed down from the upper deck, armor still smoking from the earlier blast, 2 against a handful of humans, odds too high. But the humans did not back. Away, Grant, weak but alive, crawled from the medbay. Blood trailed behind him. He raised the piece of black armor like a shield. "Fight," he rasped. "They bleed." The words cut through fear. Jack saw the first hunter's armor cracked from the explosion. Soft blue glow leaked from the wounds. He lunged, torch burning, jamming it into the crack. The smell of burning alien flesh filled the air. The hunter screamed, not a roar, but real pain. Pierce smashed a rod across its faceplate. Glass cracked. One blue eye went dark. The hunter staggered back. Its partner charged forward, claws flashing. Jack fell, torch knocked. From his hand he rolled, grabbed a sharp piece of metal, and stabbed upward. The blade punched into the hunter's side. Black liquid hissed onto the floor. The hunter grabbed Jack's throat, lifting him off the ground. Breath choked away. Stars danced before his eyes. Grant raised the armor shard and slammed it into the creature's wrist. The blade cut deep. Hunter dropped Jack, roaring. The humans didn't run. They pressed forward. Blow after blow. Sparks flew.
Oh.
Blood, black and steaming, splattered walls and faces. Finally, the first hunter fell, armor shattered, life leaking away. The second backed away, breathing ragged. Its eyes met Grant's. Old instincts warred with new fear. For the first time in generations, the hunter knew what it was to feel hunted. The freighter shook as the hunter ship outside powered weapons. Sensors screamed warnings. The alien ship would destroy the Silver Knight rather than let its shame escape. Pierce ran to the console, fingers flying. "If we're going down," she shouted, "we take them with us." Jack limped to her side, blood on his face. "Do it." The freighter turned, engines burning at full thrust. Its nose aimed straight at the alien ship. Alarms blared. Heat rose. The alien ship fired.
Ow, later.
Lasers carved through the freighter's hull. Fire spread through corridors. Grant stood beside the broken hunter, chest rising and falling slowly. His hand touched the cracked mask. "You hunted us," he whispered. "Now learn fear." The freighter slammed into the alien ship. Explosion bloomed in silent space. Metal twisted, flames blossomed, and darkness swallowed both ships far away. On a human outpost, an escape pod drifted into sensor range. Inside were Grant, Jack, Pierce, and 2 others, burnt, wounded, alive. The rescue crew opened the hatch. Grant held out his hand. In it, a broken hunter's mask. "They bleed," he whispered again. His voice was steel now. "And they can be killed." Across human space, stories spread. Not of perfect hunters, but of humans fighting back, hurting them, making them afraid. In the dark corners of the galaxy, alien clans spoke in quiet voices. About prey that turned on its hunters. About humans who refused to die quietly. And in those whispers, the seeds of something terrifying grew. Humans had stopped running, and the hunters had just learned what it meant to become prey. On the edge of human space floated a lonely colony named Hesperia Station. It was built on a dead world with red skies and broken mountains. People lived there for mining and research, but few ever visited. After the attack on the Silver Knight, Grant, Jack, and Pierce were taken there to rest and recover. The news had spread before them. Soldiers nodded in silent respect. Engineers watched them with wide eyes. Children whispered behind walls, pointing at the scarred survivors. They were no longer just miners or traders. They were witnesses. Proof that the hunters could bleed and even die. Jack limped through the halls, haunted by memories. Smoke, blood, the cold touch of claws on his neck. Sometimes he woke in the dark, gasping for breath, still feeling the weight of alien fingers. But every time, he remembered the sound the hunter made when it got hurt. The raw shock. The fear. Grant, older and slower now, sat in the medical wing, staring at the cracked hunter mask. Doctors told him to rest, but he spent hours just looking at it, running a thumb across the broken glass. Behind the mask, there had been eyes, cold, smart, but not fearless. Pierce. The freighter captain refused to stay in bed. She spent her time in the station's command room, studying hunter attack patterns, old logs, and strange signals from deep space. One evening, a researcher named Dr. Reza came to them. He had gray hair and nervous eyes. In his hand was a data pad filled with old reports, some classified, some forgotten. "I need to show you something," Reza said, voice shaking slightly. In the small briefing room, Reza brought up a hologram. It showed a valley on a desert planet, marked by stone towers older than human history. Carvings of tall figures with clawed hands and masks shaped like skulls. "These ruins were found decades ago," Reza said. "At first, no one cared. Thought they were just statues. But after what you faced, I looked again." He zoomed in on the carvings. The alien figures were shown hunting other creatures. But one part of the stone showed something different. A figure with no mask, bleeding from a wound, backing away from a smaller creature that stood tall, unafraid. "It looks human," Jack whispered. Reza nodded. "Or at least, it shows that even these hunters once faced something that fought back." Grant leaned forward. His eyes burned brighter than they had in days. "So they're not perfect," he murmured. "They can lose." For the first time, hope tasted real. Pierce slammed a hand on the table. "Then we stop being prey. We learn from them, and we hunt them." The next days turned into weeks. On Hesperia Station, a small team of survivors, soldiers, and scientists gathered. They watched old hunter recordings attacks on other species, the way they moved, the weapons they used. Humans didn't have the same strength or speed, but they had something else. Curiosity and hate turned into focus. Jack trained with the Marines on the station. Every strike, every drill, he pushed harder, driven by nightmares and rage. Pierce worked with engineers, studying the shape of hunter ships, trying to find weaknesses. Grant spent his time with Reza, decoding the carvings and translating old hunter symbols. The more they learned, the more one truth burned clear. Hunters respected only power and fear. If humans wanted to survive, they had to become something the hunters feared. One night, the station's deep scanners picked up a signal, not from human space, but far beyond. A faint pulse repeating every few seconds. Reza checked it against hunter language. His face turned pale. It says, "Challenge accepted." The hunters had heard the story of the humans who fought back. Now they were coming, not one or two, but an entire hunting party. Alarms echoed through the station. Soldiers loaded weapons, civilians hid in shelters. For a moment, fear returned, heavy as stone, but it didn't break them, sharpen them. Pierce gathered the team. "They want to hunt," she said, voice cold. "Then we make them regret it." Jack remembered the fear that had burned his lungs. He used it now, shaping it into anger, into courage. Grant spoke last. "They think we're animals," he rasped. "Let's show them we're something worse." The team worked through the night. They laid traps in the station's lower tunnels, rewired doors to seal behind the hunters, flooded some areas with gas that burned alien lungs. Humans couldn't match hunter strength. They could force them into places where strength meant nothing. The hunters arrived just before dawn. Black ships slid out of the void, silent and cold. Doors opened, and tall, armored figures stepped onto the red dust of Hesperia. Masks gleamed under the dying sun. They moved without fear. They didn't know what waited. In the lower tunnels, Jack crouched behind a crate, heart beating fast. His hands shook, but he kept them steady. He remembered Elena's face, Moloch's burnt body, the smell of smoke on the cobalt dawn. A loud crash shook the tunnel. The first hunter kicked open the door, stepping inside. Its eyes glowed faint blue. Scanning the shadows, Jack didn't wait. He threw a pipe bomb down the corridor. Light and fire swallowed the space. The hunter staggered, armor scorched. Another human fired a shock net, wrapping it in crackling energy. The hunter roared, claws tearing at the net. But Jack was already moving. He swung a mining drill, aiming for a crack in the armor. Metal screamed against metal. The drill bit deep, blood black and steaming poured out. The hunter fell, twitching, eyes fading. For a second, silence returned. Then the second hunter charged, faster than the first. Jack backed away. The human beside him tripped. Claws came down, but the man rolled aside, bleeding. Pierce's voice shouted through coms. Now. Jack slapped the detonator. Explosives buried in the ceiling blew, rock and metal crashing down. The hunter vanished under tons of rubble above. In the control room, Grant and Reza watched the sensors. More hunters moved through the station, splitting up. Hunting in pairs? They think we're cornered, Reza whispered. Grant's eyes narrowed. We are, he said. But so are they. They triggered more traps. Corridors flooded with fire, sealed doors, sudden gas that burned the hunters' lungs. Some hunters died, caught by surprise. Others adapted quickly, learning human tactics almost as fast. The fight moved closer, too. The heart of the station. Smoke and screams echoed through metal halls. But the hunters were bleeding. For every human that fell, at least one hunter died. Jack limped into the main atrium, lungs burning. Blood dripped from his forehead into his eyes. Across the floor stood the last hunter, taller than the others. Armor darker, mask shaped like a screaming skull. It turned its gaze on Jack, slow and calm. They stared at each other, predator and prey, but something had changed. Jack wasn't running. He raised his weapon, breath ragged. Come on, he rasped. The hunter stepped forward, claws flexing. It moved like death itself, but Jack kept his ground. Behind him, hidden sensors counted every step the hunter took. At the last second, Jack jumped aside. The hunter stepped on a pressure plate. The floor opened under its feet. The hunter fell into a deep shaft lined with burning plasma coils. The scream echoed off metal walls. The raw, real scream of a creature that finally understood fear. Jack lay on the ground, chest heaving, ears ringing. The smell of burnt flesh rose from the shaft around him. Humans stepped into the atrium, bruised and burned, but alive. Pierce walked forward, face streaked with soot. Status. Shh. She asked, voice flat. Jack pushed himself up. They're gone. He whispered, all of them. Silence spread through the station, and then, slowly, a sound no one expected. Humans laughed, tired, broken, half-crazy laughter. They had survived. In the control room, Grant leaned back, bones aching. Closed, and for the first time in days, the weight on his chest lifted. Reza whispered, they'll send more. Grant opened his eyes, calm and cold. Then we keep learning, he said. They hunted us. Now we evolve. Outside, in the silent dark between stars, alien eyes watched the burning wrecks on Hesperia Station. The whispers grew louder in hunter halls, humans, dangerous, unpredictable, not prey anymore, and in those whispers, fear began to take root. The galaxy had new predators now, and they were called humanity. Months passed since the battle on Hesperia Station. Stories spread faster than any ship. Across human space, people whispered about the miners and traders who had killed the deadliest hunters in the galaxy. Children repeated the names. Grant, Jack, Pierce. They became legends, symbols of something no alien had seen before. prey that turned into hunters. The Galactic Council listened to. They were not part of the hunter clans, but they had always feared them. The hunters kept balance by killing the weak, and in return, no one challenged them. But now, humans had broken that ancient rule. Some council worlds wanted to destroy Earth before humans got stronger. Others thought it was too late. While they argued, humanity acted. On a hidden shipyard orbiting a cold asteroid, engineers and scientists worked day and night, studied wreckage taken from dead hunter ships. Pieces of black armor, burned weapons, broken mask lenses that still glowed faintly in the dark. They didn't just copy hunter tech, they changed it, improved it, added human creativity, and something aliens never understood, unpredictability. Jack was there, his burns almost healed, though scars remained. He tested weapons, walked through half-built corridors, and watched workers weld armor onto strange new ships. Ships with no nameplates, no registry numbers. Ships designed to be invisible. Pierce stood beside him, face hard as stone. "Ghost Fleet," she whispered. "They won't see us coming." First ship rolled out from the dry dock, black as midnight, shaped to hide from sensors. It had no windows, only cameras and scanners. Its engines ran cold, heat hidden from enemy eyes. Humans had built something even the hunters had never imagined, a fleet that could disappear into space, in training rooms. Soldiers and volunteers learned how to fight the hunters. They practiced in dark halls, moving in silence, striking fast and vanishing. Grant, older now, walked with a cane, his breathing heavy from old wounds, but his mind was sharp. He taught them what fear had taught him. "They're stronger," he told the new crews. "Faster, but they bleed, and they can be fooled." His voice was gravel, but every word sank deep. In hidden meetings, human commanders wrote a new doctrine. No glorious battles, no open wars. Humans would not fight fair. They would hunt the hunters, one by one, in the dark. Far beyond human space, hunter clans gathered. They watched the broken masks and heard the tales of defeat. Rage burned in them, but deeper still was something older. Colder, fear. The elder hunters spoke in growls and bone-deep whispers. "We must crush them now, before they rise." They sent new hunting parties, bigger and better armed. Found nothing. Human ships had vanished. Colonies seemed abandoned. What the hunters didn't know was that humans were not running. They were waiting. The first hunter ship, black and sharp as a knife, drifted through an asteroid field, searching for signs of human life. It moved slowly, scanners open wide. Its crew of 3 hunters watched every shadow in the rocks above. Unseen by any scanner, waited the first ship of the Ghost Fleet. Its captain was Pierce, her face lit only by dim red lights. Jack stood beside her, holding his breath. "Now." Pierce whispered, the human ship-powered weapons built from stolen hunter tech, improved with human madness. A single pulse of energy fired, no sound in the vacuum, just light. The hunter ship's shields collapsed. Explosions ran through its hull. In seconds, the ship broke apart, metal twisting and venting fire into space. The Ghost Fleet slipped away before the other hunters could even track the shot. It was the first kill. In the days that followed, more hunter ships vanished. Some found drifting mines that stuck to their hulls like black barnacles, exploding seconds later. Others were lured into old asteroid tunnels and trapped by collapsing rock. Humans watched from the shadows. Every kill was quick, silent, and left no survivors. The hunters who survived long enough to speak carried one message: "We are being hunted." Across human worlds, people watched shaky footage of alien wrecks burning in space. Cheers echoed. Through crowded rooms, hope spread like fire, but not everyone felt safe. In the command center, Grant watched the reports. His old eyes narrowed. "They will adapt," he whispered. "They always do." He was right. The hunters began changing tactics. They traveled in pairs, scanned deeper, and sent decoy ships to draw human fire. Some human crews died in these new traps, their cold wrecks drifting forever in empty dark. In a hidden meeting, the Ghost Fleet captains gathered. Faces were lined with exhaustion, Jack spoke first, voice rough but calm. We hit them. Wait. Back. It won't stop. Pierce nodded. Then we change again. They made a new plan. Not just kill hunters, but shatter their pride. Make them fear the dark. A single hunter dreadnought, larger than anything the Ghost Fleet had faced, patrolled near an old battlefield filled with wrecks. Its scanners reached far, its armor thick as a city wall. No human ship could fight it in. Open space. But humans didn't fight fair. The Ghost Fleet hid in the wreckage, engines cold. Pierce stood on her bridge, calm as ice. Send the signal, she ordered. A fake distress call crackled through space. Civilian ship under attack, engines failing. Help. The dreadnought turned, slow and confident. Its massive guns scanned the wreck field. Inside, hunter commanders watched calmly. Prey had called them, they would answer. But as they moved closer, the wreckage shifted. Hidden human ships powered up, heat blooming like a sudden firestorm. In seconds, the Ghost Fleet struck. Its mines hidden in corpses of old ships latched onto the dreadnought's hull. Explosions ripped through its armor. From the shadows, human ships fired again and again, hammering the same cracks. Smoke vented into space. The dreadnought fired wildly, but hit nothing. Jack's ship slipped closer, almost touching metal scorched by fire. His voice was quiet. For Alina, he whispered. He fired the last shot. The dreadnought's reactor blew. Light washed the wreck field, shadows dancing across twisted holes. The biggest hunter ship in the sector was gone. Silence returned. Human. Ships slipped away like ghosts, leaving only ruin. Across the galaxy, hunter clans fell into chaos. Some demanded a massive war. Others whispered fearfully that humans had become something new. Not prey, not predator, but shadows. The Galactic Council met in hidden chambers. Old alien leaders' eyes dark with worry. One elder spoke slowly. They were weak. We let them learn. Now they are what we feared most. In the command room of the Ghost Fleet, Grant leaned on his cane, staring at the star map. His voice cracked, but strong, carried through the quiet. We will never outnumber them, he said, but we will outthink them. In every shadow, in every silence, they will wonder if we're there. His eyes locked on Jack. And that fear, Grant said, is the weapon that makes us apex predators. Jack nodded, remembered fire, blood, and the smell of burning alien flesh. We hunt, he whispered, far beyond. In halls carved from black stone, hunters gathered under red banners. They had never known fear. Now it stood beside them, cold as a grave. Humans had learned to hunt the hunters, and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars above the frontier colony of Haven burned cold and distant. Haven was small, a mining outpost with steel towers rising above red sand. Farmers worked under protective domes. Children ran through narrow streets most had never seen. A hunter and only knew the stories whispered in crowded bars. Humans had turned the hunters into prey, but deep in the black of space, the hunters had not forgotten. They gathered, furious and patient, to end the new human threat once and for all on the bridge of a massive hunter flagship, its walls decorated with bones of ancient kills. A warlord known only as the High Claw watched the darkness. His mask was old, blackened by countless hunts. His eyes burned cold blue dot around him. Smaller hunter ships waited, silent and ready. This was the biggest fleet ever sent against humans. Dozens of ships, warriors trained for nothing but the kill. They would not make the mistakes of those who fell before. Far from Haven, the Ghost Fleet waited too. Hidden behind a broken moon, Pierce watched her sensors. Jack stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes sharp from too many nights without sleep. They want us to come, Pierce said quietly. Jack nodded. And we will. It was a trap. Everyone knew it.
Ow!
But sometimes walking into the trap was the only way to break it. The human fleet-powered engines, running cold at first, then hotter as they approached. They sent fake signals, distress calls, false come traffic, old mining codes. Anything to make it look real. The hunters watched and smiled. Behind their masks, the prey thought they were clever. But the High Claw had planned deeper. His ship had hidden scanners, ghost fields to catch even the coldest human ships. When the first Ghost Fleet ship moved closer, the Hunter flagship sent its command. The trap slammed shut, dozens of Hunter ships broke cover, engines roaring, circled the human fleet like sharks, weapons aimed and ready. On the bridge of the human flagship, Pierce felt the floor tremble. Red lights flashed, alarms screamed. But her voice stayed calm. "Jack," she said, "are they in position?" Jack checked his screen. "Almost," he whispered. Across space, hidden in the wreck of an old transport, Grant sat in a dark room lit only by a single screen. His breathing was slow, his chest rising and falling with effort. "They think they've caught us," he rasped into the cum. "Now show them who is really hunted." In silence, the rest of the Ghost Fleet moved. Ships that had never shone. On Hunter's sensors turned, weapons ready. The High Claw felt a flicker of doubt, quick as a heartbeat. But pride drowned it. "Fire," he ordered. Lasers and plasma lances cut through space, burning human hulls, smashing engines. A Ghost Fleet. Ship cracked apart, spilling fire into the dark. Jack watched, fists clenched as human lives were lost. "Now, Pierce," he whispered. Pierce's voice was ice. "All ships, release the net." From the hidden Ghost Fleet ships came small, dark pods. They spread through the Hunter fleet like silent spiders, too small to target, too many to stop. The High Claw's ship scanned them, but the pods showed as harmless debris. Too late, the Hunters realized each pod carried a weapon designed from Hunter tech, but twisted by human minds. The pods latched onto Hunter hulls, cut through armor, and planted charges deep inside. One by one, Hunter ships lit up in sudden fire. Explosions flashed across the black. The Hunter fleet staggered, confused, divided. In that chaos, the Ghost Fleet struck. Human ships emerged from hiding, firing precise, deadly shots. They aimed not to fight fair, but to kill fast. Jack's ship dove between burning wrecks, engines screaming. A Hunter frigate blocked his path. Its cannons turned, glowing with energy. "Hold steady," Jack said, voice flat. At the last second, he ordered a roll. The Hunter shots passed over them, missing by meters. Jack fired, and plasma tore through the frigate's neck. It broke apart, spilling black liquid and fire. Across space, the Hunter flagship stood untouched. Its armor was thicker than anything humans had faced. The High Claw watched the chaos with cold rage. He opened comms to his fleet. "Regroup," he growled. "Crush them." But the human plan was deeper still. In the shadow of Haven's moon, a massive mining station powered up. Its energy signature was hidden until now. Grant, pale and shaking, watched the final countdown. "Almost," he whispered, sweat running down his face. "Almost." Inside the mining station was a weapon built from desperation and stolen knowledge, an energy pulse that could blind sensors, fry circuits, and leave even Hunter tech helpless for seconds. Seconds were all humans needed, Jack Grant whispered. "Get ready." Jack's ship moved into position. On the main screen, he saw the Hunter flagship, black as night, drifting forward. Its weapons glowed, ready to fire. "Now," Grant hissed. The mining station fired. A ripple of blue energy spread through space, too fast to dodge. Hunter's screens flickered and died. Ship systems froze. The High Claw's flagship went blind. Its guns powered down. In that frozen moment, the Ghost Fleet moved. Pierce ordered the attack, her voice low but sharp. Human ships aimed at the same spot on the flagship's hull, a place found after months of study. Where armor was weakest, the shots hit together, metal bent and cracked. Fire burned in the wounds. The High Claw roared behind his mask, slamming fists into his console. Systems struggled back to life, but to slow inside Jack's ship, alarms blared. Damage from earlier hits had weakened the engines, but Jack didn't stop. He pushed forward closer to the Hunter flagship than any human had dared get us out. Someone shouted behind him. Jack shook his head. Not yet. They fired the last of their weapons. Shots drilled deeper into the flagship's cracked armor. Smoke and liquid vented into space. Inside the flagship, the High Claw saw fire spread. Across his bridge, his warriors staggered, some dead, others choking on smoke. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. He opened a private channel to the Ghost Fleet. His voice, when it came, was rough and broken. "Why? Do you fight so hard?" Grant answered, his voice low and calm. "Because you thought we were prey," he whispered, "or prey, and you made us remember how to hunt under." The flagship tried to turn, engines burning. But the damage was too deep. Fire reached its core. A final explosion tore through the flagship. Light swallowed it. When the glow faded, nothing but drifting wreckage remained. Silence returned to space. Smoke and twisted metal drifted through the dark. On the Ghost Fleet bridge, Pierce exhaled, shoulders sagging. Jack leaned back, sweat cold on his face. Hands shook. "They're gone," he whispered. But victory tasted bitter. Human ships floated, many damaged, some lost forever. Friends they had trained beside, laughed with, were now just names on a list. In the mining station, Grant slumped. In his chair, chest heaving, his eyes watched the dead Hunter flagship on the screen. "It's not over," he rasped. "They'll send more." Pierce's voice came through, tired but steady. "Then we keep hunting." Far away, in Hunter Halls, news spread of the lost flagship and the High Claw's death. Some hunters raged, smashing weapons against walls. Others stood silent, fear crawling in their bones. The humans had walked into the trap and turned it into a grave, in the dark between stars. The hunters now whispered the name humans had earned: ghosts. Not because they were unseen, but because they brought death from the dark, without mercy, without warning. The galaxy had changed. The hunters were still deadly. But now, when they looked into the shadows, they wondered if humans waited there, and in that doubt humans had already won. Cold wind blew across the half-built decks of the Vigil Shadow. A new Ghost Fleet ship still under construction, in a hidden dock carved inside an asteroid. Even unfinished, the ship felt alive, shaped by pain, rage, and the stubborn refusal of humanity to die quietly. Jack stood beside the hull, helmet under his arm, eyes darker than the vacuum outside. Scars marked his face, fresh and old, each a memory of fire and blood. Since the fall of the Hunter flagship, the Ghost Fleet had grown stronger. But the enemy had grown wiser to Grant, older and thinner than before, moved slowly on a metal. Kane, his voice was gravel, each breath hard one, but his mind remained sharp as broken glass. He had called Jack to the dock, not for words of comfort, but to share a truth darker than steel. "They're changing," Grant rasped. "The hunters have started to learn from us." Jack frowned. "More than that, they've begun to hunt like us. They lay ambushes. They strike fast, then vanish. Some were darker. Armor to hide from our sensors." For a moment, the weight of it pressed into Jack's chest. The hunters were not just reacting. They were evolving. Pierce arrived. Her voice cut through the doubt. "So we changed too," she said simply. "We've made them feel fear. Now, we make them feel hunted everywhere." A plan was born in the silence that followed. No longer would the Ghost Fleet strike only from shadows. It would go deeper into the Hunter's own territories. Not just to destroy ships, but to break the Hunter's pride where it began. Their training grounds, hidden far beyond mapped space, lay an ancient moon, burned black by centuries of fire and blood. The Hunters called it Darushesh. Their young Hunters passed final trials. Their skulls of fallen prey hung from stone towers. No outsider had ever seen it and lived, but that was the point. Jack, Pierce, and a hand-picked team would go not in strength, but in silence. A single Ghost Fleet ship, stripped for stealth, armed with weapons built from what humanity had learned and stolen. The night before departure, Jack walked the hangar, hand resting on cold metal. Memories pressed close. Elena's laughter, the smell of burnt hair on the cobalt dawn, Malik's silence in the vents. Rage flickered, but he held it tight, controlled. "We're not going just to kill," he whispered to the dark hole. "We're going to show them that nowhere is safe." The ship slipped into the dark, engines hidden, heat masked, across days. And nights with no sunrise, they crossed the cold gulfs between stars. Inside, the crew spoke little. Each knew the price of discovery. Capture meant death, and worse, being displayed as trophies. But silence wasn't fear. It was focus. Dar Ukesh appeared at last. A dead moon, its gray surface marked by old scars of bombardment.
Hours of black stone
Rose above canyons where hunter trials were fought. Fires burned in open pits, smoke drifting across the rocks. Jack watched through the viewport, heart heavy with hate. "How many died here?" he whispered. "To make them stronger." Pierce's voice stayed flat. "Let's make it cost them." Night, hidden by rock, they landed. Jack and a small team slipped out in black armor, darker than the sky. Breath echoed in helmets, loud as a drumbeat. The first thing they saw was a valley filled with trophies. Skulls of alien prey, some massive as tanks, others small and delicate. Human skulls, too, bleached by sun. They moved fast, placing explosives shaped to crack stone towers. But in the smoke, shadows moved to young hunters. Faces hidden behind new masks, stepped from darkness. They were supposed to be in training, but some carried real weapons. For a heartbeat, silence ruled the canyon. Then the nearest hunter lunged. Claws flashing, Jack blocked, feeling bone-deep shock as steel met alien strength. Sparks flew. The shot cracked the air, punching through the hunter's chest. Black liquid sprayed rock. More hunters appeared. Fight turned desperate, breath ragged. Vision blurred by sweat and blood. A blade cut Jack's shoulder, burning cold and sharp. Pain flared, but he stepped closer, not away. His knife slammed into the hunter's side. Towers cracked, stone and skulls raining down. Fire spread across ancient carvings. On comes Pierce's voice, cut through the chaos. "We've done enough." But Jack stood among burning bones, chest heaving. Past broken statues, past walls where hunter elders had carved kill marks. For centuries, each mark a life ended, each mark a victory over the weak. In the deepest hall stood a single black pillar, wrapped in chains of old trophies. At its base, bones, some fresh, some ancient. Jack set the last charge there. His voice on coms was quiet for all of them. Fire chased him, heated his back, stones falling from above. Outside, the Ghost Fleet ship powered engines, hovering just above the rocks. Jack stumbled into the ramp, blood running down his arm. Pierce pulled him aboard. The last charge blew. The black pillar cracked and toppled. A wave of dust and bones swept the valley from orbit. The ruin was clear. Towers that had stood for centuries lay broken, fires burning where once the hunters had written their triumphs. As the ship climbed into space, Jack looked back. The smoke rose high, darkening the pale stars. "They'll come for us now," someone whispered. Pierce nodded. "Let them." On the bridge, Jack stared into the dark. "We didn't just kill them," he said softly. "We killed what made them sure they'd never be hunted." News reached the hunter halls like a curse. Young hunters who had yet to earn. Akil sat in silence. Elders smashed relics in rage. The trial grounds had fallen. Skulls that proved dominance were dust. Fear spread deeper than any wound. If humans could strike the heart of hunter pride, then nowhere was safe. In the secret, councils of the Ghost Fleet, Grant's voice low and broken, carried a truth. "They will come at us with everything," he warned. "But every step they take in anger makes them easier to see." Understood. The hunters had become loud, angry, reckless prey. In the shadows between stars, human ships waited, and every silent drift of metal and every cold spark of an engine. The hunters would now see ghosts, and in that fear, humanity's rise as true apex predators had only just begun. Dust and debris drifted through the hidden corridors of the Ghost Fleet's newest command station. A dead mining ring turned secret fortress at the edge of human space. Inside its cold metal walls, engineers and soldiers moved like shadows, always armed, always listening for signs of betrayal. Since the strike on Derushej, the hunters had unleashed everything. Small human colonies burned under sudden raids. Outposts vanished overnight, leaving only drifting ruins. But every attack cost the hunters dearly. Each time, the ghost fleet struck back, hit harder, vanished again. Yet everyone knew this endless bleeding couldn't last forever. Sooner or later, the hunters would gamble everything on one final blow, the chance to end humanity's defiance before it spread across the stars like wildfire. Jack stood in the command ring's dim war room, his eyes locked on a spinning hologram of hunter fleet movements. Scars lined his arms, half hidden by the dark armor he never removed anymore. He hadn't slept well in days. Sleep only brought memories of fire and claws in the dark. Grant was there too. Thinner now, skin-like, old paper. But when he spoke, every tired officer listened. "They're gathering," Grant said, voice rough. "A fleet bigger than any they've sent. Not raids, not ambushes. This is an ending. Brusser for them." Pierce leaned over the table, tapping coordinates. Main supply nexus. They call it Harshik Prime. It feeds their war fleet's weapons, fuel, new hunters. If we strike it first, we break their spine. Jack studied the map. The place lay deep in hunter territory, ringed by stations, bristling with guns. An impossible target. And yet, impossible was exactly what humans had become known for. A younger officer, barely old enough to shave, looked between them, voice tight with fear. "Sir, we don't have enough ships." Grant fixed him with an old, tired smile. "We don't need more ships. We need better ghosts." They moved fast. The ghost fleet scattered across the black, ships splitting into cells, all headed to the same target. Human saboteurs slipped through trade lanes, posing as traders and prisoners, each carrying parts for a weapon that didn't exist yet in any book. While hunter eyes searched for the fleet stayed hidden inside asteroids. Behind dead moons, buried in shadows that even hunter tech couldn't see through, days turned to nights with no dawn. Jack sat alone in a dark corner of the strike ship's silver veil, sharpening a combat blade over and over. Each scrape against the whetstone calmed the roar in his chest. Pierce found him there. "We're almost ready," she said. Jack looked up. His eyes were old now, older than his years. "If we fail," Pierce shrugged, "then we burn their teeth from the inside as we die. Simple, final. No mercy left in either of them." When they arrived near Harshik Prime, the view was terrifying even for seasoned Ghost Fleet crews. Dozens of hunter ships drifted in tight formation, big ones that could break moons, small ones that slipped through asteroid fields like wolves. Around them, rings of orbital guns glowed like poisonous stars. And behind all of it, the Nexus, a station the size of a small planet, black metal carved with ancient markings, tied millions of tons of fuel and weapons. And trophies, always trophies. Pierce stood on the Silver Veils Bridge, surrounded by the hum of silent engines. "Once we strike, there's no going back," she told the crew. No one answered. They didn't need to. Every man and woman on board knew they weren't coming back unless they won. Jack keyed his come. Grant, do it. Far behind, hidden in a drifting hulk, Grant's old hands hovered over an ancient console. He had only one job left in this war. One spark to light the final fire. His fingers danced over switches. The Ghost Fleet's secret weapon, a virus grown from hunter tech and twisted by human code, spread through hidden channels. Crawling into hunter sensors, cameras, weapons, in the hunter control halls, the elder commanders felt something. Shift. Screens flickered. Readings jumped. Guns powered down, up, down again. A heartbeat of confusion all Jack and Pierce needed. "Go," Pierce ordered. The Silver Veil dropped cloak. Engines roared. Behind it, other Ghost Fleet ships did the same. 100 lights in the dark, small, desperate, impossible to track. Hunter guns spun to target them, then flickered dead as the virus looped the commands. Human ships dived straight through the hunter wall, firing bursts that cracked armor, crippled engines, left ships drifting dead. Jack's hands moved fast, guiding the silver veil through the chaos. Debris scraped the hull. A hunter fighter slammed into their side, tearing metal. But they kept going. In the distance, the Nexus loomed closer. They would never breach its armor from the outside, but that wasn't the plan. Jack led the strike team to the drop bay. His boots rang against the steel, echoing in the small, tense space. Each soldier checked their gear in silence. Charges, hack tools. Knives, always knives. They launched in small pods, silent torpedoes cutting through black space. Explosions flared above as the Ghost Fleet and the Hunter Armada tore each other apart. Jack's pod slammed into the Nexus hull. Metal screamed. Heat flooded the small chamber. When the hatch blew open, cold air sucked at them like a hungry ghost. They moved. Fast through the corridors, pitch black, lit only by flickering red. Hunter warriors met them, tall and silent. In the flickering shadows, knives flashed, plasma burned. Humans bled, but they did not stop. Deep inside the Nexus, they found what they came for, the main reactor glowing like a captured star. Enough. Power to feed every Hunter ship for a generation. Jack planted the first charge with shaking hands. He remembered Elena's face, Malek's laugh, the smell of burning metal on the cobalt dawn. All those ghosts stood behind him now, Pierce's voice crackled in his ear, calm even in the end. They'll remember this forever. Outside the core room, more hunters closed in, dozens now. Jack's team fought back to back, blades striking armor, boots slipping in blood. Each second was paid for in lives. Finally, Jack slammed the last charge into place. He knew they'd never reach the pods again. He didn't care. Pierce caught his arm. We're face to face, surrounded by smoke and sparks. It was worth it, she said. Jack nodded once. For all of us. Behind them, the reactor hummed louder, heat curling the metal floor. Hunter claws scratched closer in the dark. Jack pulled Pierce close, a hand on the detonator. Somewhere far above, Grant felt the core go live on his console. He exhaled, eyes closing for the last time. Good hunting, he whispered. The core went white, then vanished into fire. Above Harshik Prime, the Ghost Fleet ships burned with the Hunters, metal drifting, silent wrecks. But in the heart of the Nexus, the explosion broke everything. Fuel stores cracked. Chain reactions fed each other until the entire supply world split apart, for the first time in centuries. The Hunter fleets felt true panic. Ships jumped away blind, crashing into debris, vanishing into dark. Their greatest stronghold gone, their trophies dust. In human space, scattered survivors listened to broken signals. They heard the word passed on battered channels. Jack, Pierce. Grant heroes, ghosts, predators, who broke the galaxy's oldest. Hunters in the heart of their own den. No one knew exactly how many hunters survived. But it didn't matter, 'cause now, wherever they gathered, wherever they whispered of prey and glory, they knew the ghosts were coming. And humanity, once hunted, now hunted forever. Cold silence spread across the galaxy after the fall of Harshik Prime. The Hunters had lost more than ships and weapons. They had lost the heart of their pride. Across dead halls and scorched training grounds, the old ones whispered in fear. Still, no human fleet came to claim victory. The Ghost Fleet vanished into the dark, like they had never existed, on the edge of known space. In a broken command center, hidden inside a drifting asteroid, Jack sat alone. His armor, scorched and dented, lay beside him. His hand traced the old blade he'd carried through every fight. Scars covered his skin, but his eyes were the deepest wound, shadows of every friend buried in the dark. News came slowly. Pieces of broken signals, small human colonies, reporting hunter ships drifting dead in orbit, empty and silent. Even the oldest hunters seemed afraid to come near human worlds now, but something felt unfinished. Jack knew hunters. They didn't die quietly. Somewhere the last of them still plotted revenge. Pierce joined him in the cold room. Her face was pale, eyes hollow after so many battles. Yet in her silence was the same fire that had carried them from hunted miners to the predators. That broke the galaxy's deadliest hunters. They're not all gone, Jack said quietly. Pierce nodded. Reports say one clan remains. Old blood. They call themselves the First Hunt. No one has seen them for centuries, but now they're moving. The First Hunt were not many, but they were the oldest, the cruelest, the ones who taught all others how to kill. And now the last of them had chosen to come out of hiding. Not to fight in open battle, but to hunt the hunters who had humiliated them. Jack looked at the star map. They'll come for us, for the name we gave them. Ghosts. Pierce's voice was low, and we ended. Fight anymore. A small team gathered veterans with scars like Jack's, eyes that had seen friends die in the dark. They took the Silver Veil, barely patched after the last mission. Its hull was blacker than any scanner could track. Engines. Cooled to hide heat, they moved into deep space, beyond charts and patrols. No colony, no trade route. Just dark. Days turned to nights with no difference. In the silence, each crew member faced ghosts of their own, faces of the fallen, memories of laughter and blood. None turned back. At last, sensors found movement. A single hunter ship, massive and old. Its hull was carved with marks older than human writing. Behind it drifted smaller hunter frigates, armored in dark bone. The First Hunt had come. Not in numbers, but in legend. Inside the Silver Veil, Jack felt the cold weight of the moment. This wasn't a battle to win ground or destroy supplies. This was to end the story, or to become trophies on the wall. Pierce took the helm. The voice was steady, though her hand trembled on the controls. We get close, too close for their big guns. Then we do what we do best. As they approached, the Hunter flagship turned slowly, as if bored. Its scanners swept the black, found nothing. The First Hunt had never known fear. They believed shadows couldn't touch them, Jack whispered to the crew. Ready? The Silver Veil fired engines. In that second, human heat signatures bloomed on Hunter screens. The First Hunt saw them and laughed. The two smaller frigates moved to intercept. Hunter weapons lit space, cutting trails of white fire. The Silver Veil twisted through them, shields flickering under every hit. Inside, alarms screamed. Metal tore under stress. Console exploded, burning an engineer's arm. Jack led a boarding team to the drop bay. Each step shook with distant impacts. He thought of Alina, Malik, Grant, all the dead that had carried them to this final fight. Door breach in 10 seconds, Pierce shouted, overcomes. The Silver Veil smashed into the Hunter flagship's side. Metal screamed, plates folded like paper. Lock systems fired, fusing ship to ship. Smoke filled the drop bay. Jack's visor dimmed the glow. Red lights turned everyone into shadows. Go, he ordered. They entered the Hunter flagship through torn metal, boots landing on decks that had never known human steps. Inside, the air smelled of oil, burnt blood, and ancient death. Hunter warriors, older and larger than any they'd seen, moved through the smoke. Black liquid sprayed, hissing on the metal floor. But these hunters did not scream or fall back. Another lunged, claws catching us. He drove it under the hunter's jaw, pushing until bone cracked. The body fell, twitching. They moved deeper, through halls lined with skulls. Some human, some too alien to name. Each skull marked an old victory. The crew planted charges along the way. Even if they died, the flagship would not survive them. At last, they reached the bridge, a high chamber of black stone and metal. There, seated on a throne of bone, waited the leader of the First Hunt. Older than any human civilization, his mask cracked, but eyes cold and alive. Jack raised his rifle. The hunter rose slowly, taller than any man, claws sharp as broken glass. In that breath, the hunter spoke, a voice like rock grinding rock. Weak prey, you should have hidden. You have learned to hunt, but you will never replace us. Jack's voice was flat. We already did. Dot. The hunter leaped faster than thought. His claws raked Jack's arm, metal and blood spraying. Jack fell, vision blackening. Another human soldier fired, shot striking the hunter's chest. But the armor held. The hunter swung, claws tearing the soldier's helmet open. Pierce screamed, charged with her own blade. The hunter caught her by the throat, lifted her into the air. Jack forced himself up, pain burning through every nerve. His rifle was gone. Only the old blade remained in his hand. The hunter turned. Eyes cold and certain of victory. Jack stepped closer, each breath agony. It pierced old bone and older flesh. The hunter staggered. Black liquid poured from the mask. His claws opened, dropping Pierce. His body fell back, striking. The throne. The throne cracked, dust falling like ash-dot silence. Jack dropped to one knee, breath ragged, hand covered in black blood. Pierce coughed. "Is it over?" most Jack gasped. They armed the last charges. The Silver Veil, now a dying ship, pulled free from the flagship's hull. Engines bleeding fire. Jack and Pierce stood in the broken bridge. Looking at the ancient walls that had taught the galaxy to fear, Pierce took Jack's hand. "They'll remember this." Jack nodded, not as prey, as hunters. Charges blew. The flagship split in two. Fire swallowed bone, skulls, and darkness older than memory. From far away, human sensors caught a single bright flash where the hunter flagship had been, then only drifting debris. In the hidden command centers across human space, silent cheers turned to tears. The last of the first hunt was gone. In hunter space, those who survived gathered in cold halls. No one spoke of prey and pride now. No one hung new skulls. It's only silence and old fear. Across the stars, people told stories of the ghost fleet, of Jack, Pierce, Grant, and all who walked into the dark so others could see the dawn. Children asked, "Are they still out there?" Because even if the last hunter had died, the spirit of the hunt lived on. Humanity had risen as apex predators, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by never giving up, by learning, adapting, and fighting in the shadows when light failed. In the end, the hunters had taught them to hunt, and that lesson had destroyed the teachers. Somewhere in the black, among drifting wrecks and broken moons, a ghost ship moved. Its hull was scorched, its crew few, but in its silent halls, a single blade rested. Black blood dried on the edge, waiting. Because even if the hunters were gone, the night would always bring new monsters. And somewhere, someone would need ghosts to hunt them.